Back in 2008, Mizuno launched a driver called the MP600, and it was a memorable driver for one very significant feature. It was the first to use a sort of sliding weight system. It's a feature that you now see that's been used by other manufacturers. So Callaway used a similar thing with their Big Bertha last year, and you'll notice also that in the R15 and last year's SLDR from TaylorMade, they have a similar rail that runs behind the face and enables players to find a draw or fade bias in their driver. In this year's driver by Mizuno, the JPX 850, they've reintroduced that fast track system. And crucially, it doesn't sit in the same position, so it doesn't run from heel to toe, but it runs from the back of the head more towards the face. So what you get with this driver is two 8-gram weights. And if you are somebody that struggles to keep your spin down, you'd position those two weights in the forward two positions. That moves the center of gravity forward, should keep the spin down and should help you find a little bit more distance. Equally, if you're somebody that struggles to get the launch of your drives up and maybe struggles to get the spin up, you could move those two weight positions to the back of the head and that will help you do that. You have two lateral slots as well. Let's say you want to hit more of a draw. You can position one weight in the heel position here, one in the fast track, and that will help you do that. Equally, you could split the two weights, one between the fade position, one between the two draw, and that will make this driver the most forgiving that it can be. They've also got a quick switch hosel, and this has 4 degrees of adjustability in loft, 8 different settings, so they're actually half-degree settings. So there is really no reason why any player wouldn't be able to find a setup that works for them. Now the stock shaft they offer with this is the Fujikura Orochi that I've got here in the driver that I'm using, but they've also got a host of others, including the Fujikura Motore. That's the one that Luke Donald currently uses, and those shafts are available at no extra upcharge. So between the different shaft specs and the different settings that you have with the head, every player really should be able to find something that works. So I've got the GC2 launch monitor set up, and I'm going to hit this driver in a few different specs and see what numbers it gives me. I'm only going to test the Fujikura Orochi shaft. I've actually done some previous testing with this driver, and I really like this shaft. It seems to work really well for me, so I'm not going to bother changing the shafts, but what I am going to do is just move weights around the head just to see if I can dial in the performance for me. So with the two weights split laterally, let's see what sort of numbers I get. The flight on that is pretty high. I mean, it's launched up at 11.4, but it was spinning a little bit too much at 3.4. But it's gone a fairly decent distance, so 272 carries pretty good. So I'm fairly happy with that. I like the sound, I like the feel. Okay, that was a little bit out of the neck, but straight. That goes to show that with the weight split, the forgiveness is really there, and that's a really good example of that, because I hit that fairly poorly. Spun up at 3,300, not too bad. Carry distance 267, so for a miss hit for me, I'll take that all day long because it's straight down the middle of the fairway. But let's see what happens when I move the weights into what I suspect might be better for me, which is the two forward positions on the fast track. Pretty good, let's hit one more. So that felt really solid, and that spun a bit less. That spun at 2825 but launched a little higher. Okay, so I was really happy with the numbers I was getting with the weights in the two forward positions on the fast track, but if anything, looking at the launch monitor there, possibly producing a little bit too much draw. So let me just move the weight into the fade position, leave one of them in the forward position, so try and keep the spin down and see what that does. Spin appears to have gone up a wee bit, but it has actually delivered a nice little fade ball flight. Out of the bottom of it, but again, it's just fading back towards the fairway. It's not gone anywhere near as far. As I say, it was right out the bottom, but it goes to show there is a little bit of forgiveness with the weights in those positions. There really was, for me, there was a clear winner. Having the two weights front and centre pushed forward, it kept that launch down, and actually having the launch monitor here is great because it just reinforces what you're seeing. So when I'm seeing the ball pop up into the air with a little bit too much spin, I look down and the numbers reinforce that. So as I said before, I'm not professional, I'm not good enough to keep the spin rate down on my own, that's definitely the driver doing it for me. And it just shows that the technology that Mizuno have brought into this JPX 850 driver does really work for you. There's a lot of adjustability here, but actually it's fairly simple to understand and it's fairly simple to do. I'd advise anyone who's interested in trialling this driver to run through the similar process to the one that I just went through. It's really good fun, and it's very interesting to see how small tweaks here and there really do change the way the driver performs. However, having said that, if you're thinking about purchasing this driver, I definitely recommend you do so with the help of a fitting. Mizuno have a whole host of performance centres and fitting accounts around the UK, and the proper help of a real PGA pro will help you dial this in, both in terms of the numbers that you're able to get on the GC2 launch monitor, but also when you're out on the golf course as well, finding something that hits that balance between consistency and helping you to find your most distance with the best strike that you're able to achieve. Now, the RRP of the JPX 850 driver is 349, but you'll probably be able to find it around 299 in stores around the UK, so keep your eyes peeled for it. It's a standout driver, it's a striking look, and with the performance they've managed to find through the adjustability, it's well worth testing.